too, so we're getting that started now. So just a moment and then just be aware that we're going live. And it's all yours.
All right. Well, it is just after 6 o'clock on this, the 14th of May, and I'm bringing this meeting of the Human Rights Commission to order. We'll begin with welcome and introductions. We have two guests tonight. Councilor Brown is a regular, so for our new guests, go ahead and say your name and your ward if you know or feel inclined, and we'll go around the room and then online. Mr. Vice Chair, would you like to go ahead and start?
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Robert Marshall. I live in Ward 2 and I'm the Vice Chair of the Human Rights Commission. All right.
My name is Robert Dowd. I am a sergeant with the Salem Police Department and I'm the police department's liaison with the Human Rights Commission.
I'm Jean Rauer. I've been in Salem in the same house for 47 years. And I don't know which ward, but it's right there.
Oh, that's special. I love that. We can see ourselves on that map.
Yeah, I don't know that I could. I'm Christina Ballard and I'm from Ward 7 and I've been on the commission since December.
Hello everyone, my name is Kara Pressey. I am from Ward 5. I am a commissioner on this commission and the chair of the LGBTQIA committee. And I think that's, and she, her pronouns. That's my
Sorry. No, you're wonderful. Thank you. My name is Gretchen Bennett. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the staff liaison to the commission and its committees.
Kirsty, do you want to go ahead?
Hi everyone, my name is Kirsty Rudich. I live in Ward 5 and I'm a member of this committee.
Kelsey, do you want to?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Murray. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a commissioner on the Human Rights Commission, and I will pass to Celine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Celine, one of the commissioners. I live in Ward 1.
Councilor Brown, no worries if you, we know who you are and welcome. Unless you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Hello, everyone. Councilor Brown here in Ward 5. I'm just sitting in listening and it's good to be in this space. So thank you.
Thank you. Gretchen, did we receive any public comment?
None received.
I'm entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Seconded by Kira. All right. All those in favor? Motion passes. I think Kate's in the way.
Thank you.
All righty. Commissioner Lynn may be joining us, but may not. So what we'll do is we'll just.
I can go over that if you would like.
Okay. I didn't know if we wanted to wait for them to possibly join, but by all means, go ahead.
I guess that's a second choice if you want to flip the order of the agenda.
Oh, no, just go ahead.
Okay. I can share my screen.
That would be great.
Great. And I also have 2 hard copies, Kira, if that would be helpful.
Okay, you can just scroll through it if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
That's one of those hard copies though?
Yes.
No hard copies.
And did you want to have me scroll or would you prefer to scroll?
I can scroll if that would be
Great.
okay.
Of course it would be okay.
Okay.
There you go. And feel free to move stuff either way.
Okay. You can just say.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So any edits that were punctuation and or there was an extra space are not redlined, but they were fixed. So if you find something, let me know. But I did redline content changes. So we'll just scroll through here and I will find those.
Do you want to give some background for our guest?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we created a task force to put together some procedures for the committee to make things a little more standardized. And that includes the different meetings that we're having, public comment, the way the meeting room is set up, our roles, etc. And the task force has been working on this for over 6 months, I believe. We brought forth a finalized almost finalized draft last meeting, and we ran into some edits, so we are reviewing those edits today with hopefully potential approval. Anything else you want me to add?
No, I wanted to, well, I will again, thank you all for your efforts, and I think this will make the commission a lot more efficient and a better body that serves the public.
And I'll jump in and thank Kira. Kira was very kind to make all of these edits in the document, so I want to appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Apologies for my assumption that everyone knows what I'm talking about at all times. Okay, so this first one is going to be on concluding Human Rights Commission meetings. And on number 3, we swapped out the word minutes to transcripts at the request of this committee, being that we no longer have minutes, we have transcripts. We also changed the spelling to do out to the correct spelling for Robert. And Google. I did Google check Robert. Just kidding.
I know what do outs are.
I absolutely did not. And then I believe this was a suggestion from one of the public members who was with us in the last meeting. But under interaction between subcommittees, task force, and other groups of the Human Rights Commission during meetings, we swapped this to be and or. We swapped it in the first bullet under scheduling, and then we also swapped it here. I also went through and realized that we referred to committees and subcommittees interchangeably, so I switched it to subcommittees, if that's okay. If that is not okay, I can fix it, but everywhere else it was committees or subcommittees. These were the only 2 places that had it listed as committee. And I wasn't entirely sure what our preference is.
Well, the formal name of the entities are committees.
Okay.
I
can go back through the document
Yeah.
and check it all because again, it was subcommittee and then committee all throughout.
You know why though, because we use subcommittees.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I wrote some of it, so it
Yeah,
makes
that's
sense that
probably
I
it.
wrote subcommittee.
Yeah.
So if the preference is that we keep it committee, which I think it should be, I can go through and fix those.
Okay.
That's a super easy fix.
I would say yes, yeah, just for
Okay.
consistency. Yeah, thank you, not that.
No, that's fine. Again, we used both and I wasn't entirely sure which one to go with, and sometimes I'm very in Chariot's brain, so I want a subcommittee. And then of course, just some capitalization that didn't need to be there. So I will fix those, and again, we added and or to show that it could be between any of the committees or groups or HRC. Okay, and then page 10, under meeting introductions and grounding, we added each member of the public. So the sentence will now read, the commission prioritizes public engagement. We welcome the public to join our discussion. We also have a designated public comment period at such and such, where each member of the public can share openly for up to 3 minutes. So it's also just to clarify that all of public comment isn't 3 minutes. Each member has 3 minutes.
You know, I'm sorry. I know we're late in the review. I just had a question, if you don't mind, Kara.
Okay.
I'm thinking about where you just were. Public comment opportunity cannot be guaranteed. The very last sentence on the screen, it's a little bit covered.
Right here.
Opportunity cannot be guaranteed for each individual due to time constraints. We may adjust this time limit as necessary. My read is that that does potentially modify the edit you just spoke of above, where it says each member of the public can share openly for up to 3 minutes. Looking back to last spring, for example, or whenever that, last spring, like if we have 200 people arrive, the chair does have the opportunity to limit the time and then not each member will get to speak?
So I think that's why we did it for general meetings up top.
Oh,
We said each
thank
member
you.
of the public.
You caught me.
And then
Perfect.
the special
Special
meetings
meetings
is particular,
modified.
it can be modified.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Yeah. Just making sure we're all on the same page.
They said it was already there previously. That's not something I did. Okay, this was requested that we make the heading similar to the rest of the headings, so it's now facilitation. And the sentence that was the title is now directly below it. That's not an addition in my writing, that was just there. Okay, and then this was requested last time to add its wording regarding written public comment being accepted. So we added, if a member of the public is unable to attend or would like to provide additional input, written public comment is accepted at any time. That is my writing, so if you would like something changed.
We had discussed, if memory serves, having a window before and after the meeting wasn't any time, was it, or? So was it?
I know that
last
was,
time.
yeah, that was a previous discussion. Yeah, I remember that being part of it, but it doesn't mean that they couldn't submit anytime. It's just we may not be guaranteed
Review
to
it, that's
see it
right.
and review it
That's right.
prior
Because in theory, anyone can submit about anything,
anytime.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anytime.
Mhm.
So I guess that's true, but we just aren't,
we aren't
we aren't
guaranteeing.
accountable for that
Yes.
comment.
Yeah.
Within a certain window, it has to be. The idea, I think the conversation now that I'm speaking out, I think the conversation was about timing around receiving comment in advance of the meeting for the commissioners to digest the comment, that there was a limit around that. I think it was like 48 hours.
I think that's what we were asking for. I don't know if that's written in here anywhere.
Can't make it into the thing. I remember getting curious what everyone's preferences were.
Yeah,
Cause I can batch and send comments, as frequently or infrequently as the commission would prefer.
Is that something you would like to address in there? If it's not,
it's not a top priority. I mean, I might just,
Be worked out then, kind of situational.
okay, it was requested that we, I don't remember the exact request, but basically, out of order seemed, kind of harsh, even though that's the correct wording, and so, I added the statement that at the chair's discretion, off-topic comments may be revisited in the meeting if time permits, or if they become relevant to a subsequent discussion.
that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and then, this one was also requested by, a member of the public last time. So this is revised to say if a member, oh, I'm sorry, page would help, my bad. Page 16, role definitions and guidelines. Sorry, Robert. Again, you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so under member of the public, the last sentence there would read, if a member of the public wishes to ask for a point of clarification or make a point of information outside of public comment, they may raise their hand to be recognized at the discretion of the chair. I think the initial complaint was that this contradicted, the original way it was written contradicted the statement right before it. So I feel like this clarifies. That makes sense to you guys?
Yeah, I think it reads it, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
next page 17, under the room layout, last bullet point, we just added that the public may be invited to sit at the table instead of sit there. They can sit wherever they want. And I do believe that's it. And again, all of the punctuation and whatnot, like that, I didn't redline that.
Yeah.
So, There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions or comments about this document? Recognize this is our second time of putting it all together. And I can't see.
I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Great.
Thank you.
No questions.
So, working with that being the only minor change, could we motion?
We could, before I entertain a motion, though, I just want to thank you, Kara, for those edits, and thank you to the task force again for all their hard work. This effort was born out of a very, very contentious, prolonged experience that we had last year, and there were a lot of lessons learned. And I think, as I mentioned 15 minutes ago, I think that this document upon adoption, which is effective immediately upon adoption, will place us in better service to the public, and that's a really good thing. So if there aren't any other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion for adoption pending this last.
I move to adopt the Human Rights Commission's procedures pending changes of the word subcommittee to committee and adopting them effective immediately.
This is
Motion by-
Kira. I will second.
All right. Motion by Vice Chair Marshall, seconded by Commissioner Prezi. All those in favor?
Aye. That was Kate.
Motion. Thank you. Motion passes. So we have ourselves some guidelines. Thank you all very much. And that also marks the official end of the task force.
Yeah,
So thank you for meeting every other Monday or something like that.
yeah,
for-
we were doing twice a month.
For 6 months. So thank you all. And I will miss our frequent comments. Up in the, what is that tower called?
That's called the Public Works Traffic Control Room.
Public Works. All right. Well, so you'll hear me speaking in a little bit differently next meeting. We have our formalized language. and
Yes.
That starts. So please, I know we've all done our due diligence and read and reread and memorized that document by now. But if you haven't, so remember there are rules and etiquettes around online presence, renaming yourselves. Kelsey is modeling that tonight, Commissioner Kelsey Murray. Maybe we'll have placards, wherever we
Yes.
end up being.
Yeah.
We'll be somewhere different.
Yeah.
Next meeting, but,
Yeah.
so we'll start really putting this into practice, so thank you.
I would also like to add the caveat that we should extend grace to our fellow commissioners where possible. We shouldn't all just start going after each other just because they slip up on, certain verbiage or how things are done. And also, let's be mindful of Gretchen and some of the new things that were being asked of our staff liaison to implement as part of this, recognizing their workload with the move. So extending that grace, if placards aren't on the desks by the next time we meet, that there's considerations that we should be mindful.
Well, speak for yourself, Robert. I'm very exacting. No, of course, thank you, Robert. And thank you, Kira, for running that. Section. Sergeant?
For those of you online, this is Sergeant Robert Dowd of Salem Police Department. I am here to present the bias crimes and bias incidents that have occurred within the city of Salem since the last meeting I was at. I don't know for sure if we had representation here in April and if they covered any bias crimes or bias incidents, but I'll just go back to anything that has occurred since my last meeting to just make sure that the commission is aware of all incidents here in Salem. So on the 22nd of March in Northeast Salem, there was a verbal argument that occurred in a residential parking lot where one male resident believed that another male resident was acting aggressively. The second male confronted the first, and during the exchange referred to the first as boy, which was interpreted as being racially charged, prompting a push by the second person. No injuries were reported. Video from around the areas substantiated both parties' claims. Both parties agreed to stay separate from one another, and no charges were filed in that incident. Also on the 22nd of March in Northwest Salem, There was a report of vandalism where racial slurs were reported to be carved into the side of a vehicle. The victim of this instance reported that they had previously had the tires of that same vehicle slashed, and they had not reported that to police. So the first incident was not reported. The second incident was reported. Surveillance footage from the home showed somebody passing by the vehicle late at night, but the video was not of good enough quality to determine if that person was responsible for the damage to the vehicle. And there was no way to have any workable leads from that video. And so that is a bias crime. There was damage to somebody's vehicle with racial slurs. On the 22nd of April, in Northeast Salem, a community member reported being targeted while waiting in line for services. The suspect reportedly made derogatory comments referencing the individual's perceived race, and then slapped the phone out of the victim's hands, causing damage to the phone. Officers were able to do follow-up on that later on the 27th of April and made an arrest in that incident based on bias crime 2 and then criminal mischief. And so the suspect in that case was lodged at the jail on that one. And then on the 7th of May in Southeast Salem, there was a report of derogatory language used. Officers responded to a report of a disturbance involving a subject allegedly using racial slurs towards a mother and her son who were walking on a pathway. The suspect reportedly made derogatory and nonsensical statements, but then left the area before police arrival. The victims did not report any injuries, and officers were unable to locate the involved subject. So because there was derogatory language used, but there was no injury or damage to anybody's property, this would be a bias incident. And so there's no further action. In all 4 of these instances, officers noted in their police reports that resources and referrals to bias crime hotline were made as just follow-up to each of the investigations.
Thank you, Sergeant Knapp. Any questions? I have a question. So in the case of the tire slashing and then McKean, help us understand what the police department does in these cases. Do we wait for something else to happen and the person, the victim, to call the police department, say if things were to escalate or intensify, or does the police department have some proactive approach that they could do, check in on folks?
The short answer is that there's typically no follow-up unless the victim calls back in.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not a surprise to anybody here at the meeting that we do not have very adequate staffing.
Of course.
And so the officers that are in these areas are driving around in between calls, but oftentimes there's not a lot of free time to drive around. And so there's less opportunity for our officers to engage in proactive policing by just being present in people's neighborhoods because our resources are stretched thin and everybody's going from call to call to call. And so oftentimes we end up having to wait for somebody to call in with additional information or to report another incident. And we hope we have units available and resources available to get there in a timely manner to catch the perpetrators.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that. And I didn't imagine that was the place. I think if I had a magic wand, I don't know if it would live at the police department, but not to drag you in.
There could be a additional.
And kind of a magic wand moment. You know, if maybe every time, but certainly in cases where there may be serial things or serial incidences and or escalation, I would love for someone from the city, maybe a Gretchen, to maybe not a uniformed officer, but someone who is in the know, who thinks about these issues, to follow up with people. and say, hey, it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever the time is, and we want to see if there's anything else, because I can imagine where a lot of things could happen. I can imagine a situation in which someone feels really threatened and intimidated and maybe doesn't want to call. Or, or just because you reported once or maybe twice doesn't mean you report a third or fourth time.
Sure,
Um,
especially if they feel like there's no action.
especially if there's no action. I can see a situation in which someone would really welcome a call from, say, a Gretchen type and say, oh my gosh, actually, yeah, that has happened, or maybe feel more confident reporting this didn't happen again. And I think this wouldn't happen, I don't think, very often, but it would be maybe a good practice if resources and capacity allowed, either now or maybe in the distant future.
I would welcome that.
Yeah.
If the police found appropriate situations, aligned with what Joaquin is saying, I'd be always happy to do those calls.
Yeah.
I feel like the numbers are doable enough, and there may even be commission members able to jump in.
Well, I was thinking that, but also thinking, would it be reasonable to think maybe about a volunteer ambassador program?
Yeah. Yeah. Potentially with training, and I wanna think through any nuances around information sharing and sensitivity and, but with good
Yeah.
support and training built in, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, I would say in circumstances where an officer has some kind of a workable lead, the officer will stay in touch with
Sure.
the victim, right? And hey, just to let you know, I'm still working on this, or I'm waiting on video from such and such location, or in the circumstance where 5 days later an arrest was made, the officer would reach out to the victim and say, hey, just so you know,
Yeah.
we did make an arrest in your case. It's the ones where there's not anything to follow up on, I think, is where you see a lack of capacity on our part to do some of that, staying in touch and checking up.
And I totally understand.
Yeah.
But you would know maybe better than I, certainly, but that's often.
Yes.
Where there's no lead.
Most frequently,
Yeah.
yes. Because we get there late enough that, even video is great, but a lot of it's not of quality where we can say, well, that's for sure the person. And so I do agree, that we could work on a program, whether it be that, I reach out to you and share information, you follow up, or I can certainly try to follow up, but I know you're very busy.
You are, yeah.
But
What about some kind of proposal to pull in folks from some of the nonprofit organizations, some that work with crime victims, or folks that work on issues that might be relevant, like say BIPOC groups, or a pro-disability group, or pro-LGBT group, and ask them if they could have a volunteer
Sure.
and that would be willing to act as sort of an ambassador for us, for the commission, or for I don't know if we could do it with the police or your office.
What I thought is we could talk through the information sharing line and just, that's where my mind is going. I know
yeah,
what to do.
no. As we're talking through this, I'm thinking of all of the possible things. So one thing that occurs is anytime a person is a victim of a crime, we do give them a victim's rights point of contact so they can receive money or services to help with restitution, to make them whole again after they're a victim of a crime. My concern is similar to the lines that we've shared before about information getting out about people being victims of bias crimes, is if we start to include some external groups that may be seen as offensive to the victim in a particular circumstance. They already had a hard enough time calling the police, and now some stranger is calling them to talk to them about the crime that they were a victim of. I don't think it would be inappropriate for Gretchen or another person who's a city employee or a police employee.
Yeah.
But I would be hesitant to start including outside groups just for those purposes.
I think that point is okay. I would say to Christina's comment, though, I would say if anything, it'd be a both and. I think for me, the value comes from, I reported something and my city's following up with me. Right, so that would be, you or Gretchen or whomever, that is kind of the value statement that I'm trying to make. And part of Gretchen's, I'm using you as an example,
It's okay.
part of Gretchen's follow-up could be, given the nature of the bias crime, which Gretchen would know, and
Yeah.
obviously the victim would know too, we could say, none of us live in a vacuum, all of us have community.
Sure.
And affinity spaces, so probably won't be needed, but it could be, are you interested in resources?
Mhm.
And then you could have a list of resources
Absolutely,
and or CBOs that they could voluntarily reach out to should they want or need to.
absolutely.
And that might be a compromise approach, but I think the value comes from the city reaching out in
Sure.
that kind of space.
This is Robert here. While we're talking about that, I think there might also be some ways for Salem PD to extend to these people while they're on the calls. Whether or not, the outcome was criminal or not, to, proactively follow up. Be like, hey, like we know this is the end of our interaction, but we do invite you if you'd like to, reach out to the Human Rights Commission. And we have business cards. If we, provided those business cards, Patrol just wanted them, on the desk in the briefing room, and an officer just wanted to keep a couple in their vest. So when they do end up on these types of calls, they extend the invite to proactively reach out. It could just add that, little bit of follow-up to that, person, and it provides those officers with the resource that they weren't able to necessarily affect something in that moment. They were able to leave that knowing they did provide, something, even if it is just that simple invite to continue the conversation.
So this is before Sergeant Dow joined us, but we talked about that with Deb. Is that not, did y'all not do that now?
No, that's happening, and so that was the point that I made, is that those
But it's a good
connections are
idea.
being made.
Yeah.
Not necessarily with the Salem Human Rights Commission, but with the bias crime reporting
Right.
hotline, and so that way they can connect with resources through the hotline.
Yeah, but your point is about the HRC.
Yeah.
Like,
And Gretchen.
just like the Salem HRC business cards, and it's something local, not just necessarily a hotline, but we do have our HRC cards, inviting them to.
This is a while ago.
I think at one
This is a
point,
while ago.
I think that one point that was the
This
system.
may have been a couple of years ago, actually.
And then, but maybe it's shifted over to the state, which they also do information and referral,
Yeah,
and they're great at that too.
Mhm.
So it's I don't have any problem with both being offered.
Of course,
Sure, it
yeah.
could be an and.
Yeah. I would like, that would be awesome if that could be
Yeah.
available, not to add
No.
another thing.
Well, it's not like there's 500 a month, and if there is,
No,
we'll
yeah,
talk,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and sometimes it's not even the victim isn't identified. There's been instances where things have happened and we have nothing to
Yeah.
follow up with, so,
That's true.
yeah, it's not a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, no.
just food for thought. Appreciate you all entertaining that question and conversation. Anything else on that point from anyone? I didn't mean to hijack the meeting there. Okay. Thank you, and welcome back.
thank you.
I'm glad you're feeling okay.
And DC Aguilar attended last month.
Okay.
So on my end, I received 2 complaints in the last month, and both related to race ethnicity, and I think that might have been your general theme as well, so
Mhm.
that's interesting. In both related to race ethnicity in places of public accommodation. My first situation was that someone explained they were aiming to use a restroom which was in kind of a common area where multiple businesses feed into a common restroom, like a shared space. And felt that someone was trying to shoo them out of being able to use that restroom using racial slurs. And I'm still working on, they wanted me to try to track down that person, and I still have a lead. I'm kind of working on that to try to figure out how to provide some feedback. And then we also talked with that person and a friend around some safety planning for them in case that happened again, because they were anticipating needing to reuse the space and want to feel comfortable. So we talked that through. Another situation, I had a person call on behalf of a family member who had been exited from a place of public accommodation And the manager was citing body odor issues, and the family member believed that it instead was due to race ethnicity. And we had agreed that I would work to reach the business, but then before I could reach anybody at the business, a second situation happened at a different location. A completely different business. And then they reported that situation and then decided to withdraw the request for follow-up at the locations, being concerned about just how the whole thing was being experienced and worrying about, do places talk to each other and is there potential for retaliation? So they really weren't comfortable having any action taken, but they wanted it known that in two separate instances, two separate businesses, they were exited ostensibly or reportedly due to odor, but the person felt it was something different. So I provided just some support and recognition of the experience to the person, but I didn't have any follow-up actions to take. You know, because we always center around what is the person requesting, if you will. So I had that too. And that's what I had during the report month.
Thank you, Gretchen. Any questions for our wonderful staff person?
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Kate, you're up. Meeting is, oh, I'm sorry, one second.
It's Christina. I do have a question. How does this compare to, say, last year and the amount of bias incidents we were seeing regarding race or ethnicity?
Specifically regarding race and ethnicity, I need to go look. It feels fairly comparable.
Okay.
It feels fairly comparable. But I can go back and look too. I have numbers. I track them every month.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would need the same, so, excuse me, I would tell you, I believe we're at 9 incidents, whether they were crimes or a bias incident, but we're at 9 reported items for the year. And so far this year, everyone has been around race, ethnicity, or nationality, national
Yeah.
origin. We haven't had any other instances, but I think we're at 9 so far for the year, which I think is also comparable to last year.
Okay.
For this time.
I was trying to see if there's.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm curious too. I at least noticed it in this period. I did get a complaint just more recently, not in the month, I'm trying to do by month related to disability, but I don't have all the details yet, and so I was gonna bring that in next month.
Do you track all that on like a spreadsheet or?
Not much of a spreadsheet person, but I do track the notes and issues related to each situation, and then I have a kind of a tracker form. I can pass it down to show you that is kind of a quick month summary. Yeah, and in some years I've done like a compilation for the year. Like I could go back and do 2024, for example, in that chart, so you could see the full year.
Okay, I would actually be willing to work on a spreadsheet and charts so we could have historical data to
Oh, great.
look at.
Oh, thanks, Christina. Okay, yeah. I can.
Yeah, I will say, that's probably part of this whole data governance conversation that we put on pause.
Yeah,
For the survey, but we are intending, Christina, to use all that historical data to do kind of data mapping and help inform the work that we do, but we just haven't done that yet, but that is a priority. It's been put on pause because Kate's been overseeing a survey, but past this month, that'll be back in full swing. But thank you, and then maybe we may yet.
yeah,
Take you up on that.
Yeah.
And I track my data in an Excel spreadsheet, so I get the reports, I read the reports, synopsize the reports, and then I put them into a spreadsheet that's organized by year. And so that's the easiest way for me to track the information.
Yeah, it would be really useful to see trends and.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's a totally anecdotal in the sense that it's from my memory, but in my time on the commission, a lot of defacement of public property, kind of graffiti type things, often at schools. It's very common. with a few leads, et cetera, if you're a resident. And there, in terms of cycles, anecdotally, in the late spring, early summer, there usually is a pickup of activity generally, and then often around LGBTQ plus community, probably in June and July. That typically has been the trend in the last couple of years. If I'm speaking kind of anecdotally, that does typically happen.
But I mean, that tracks with the activity and visibility.
Exactly, yeah. And but I wouldn't say that we've had kind of an absolute rise over years. If anything, we've gone down because since the DOJ hotline went to the state, we went from having maybe even 2 or 3 times more annual, and then they dropped down quite a bit because folks were reporting to the state instead of the city. So would that be yours?
Yeah, I would agree.
Anything else on this topic? All right, Commissioner Strathy, all you.
Okay, unfortunately, I don't have a great update for you, and I should have synced with Gretchen ahead of time. Gretchen may have a better update, and I was hoping Marianne would be here. Don't think she is today, unless she's in the room. I don't see Marianne today.
She's not.
No.
So the only update I think we have, so Gretchen, you had mentioned that we're hoping for a little bit more participation, but we were a little lower than last year so far. So maybe you could talk about that. But I do not have an update because we didn't have a committee meeting this month so far. So we need to talk about scheduling one, and that's the only update I have so far. So Gretchen, I'm going to hand it over to you, and hopefully we can get some more details.
You. I would be happy to add in, Kate, and thank you so much. The Community Belonging Survey has been in the field in English, Spanish, Marshallese, and Chukis. There's been a couple of in-person events as well as the online links. As of maybe a week ago, Marianne was observing that response rates were down in comparison to last year and the year before. She asked the city to boost on social media at times the students had analyzed might be good times to do it. And so the city did do that. And then we also just did a little more word of mouthy everything. But the survey closes tonight. I think Marianne's going to take it offline this evening. She had mentioned maybe midnight, but just know tonight's the last night for taking that survey. And then the students are going to roll right into their analysis and be ready to present at your June meeting, their analysis and findings from the survey. But I really appreciate Kate designed some beautiful social media posts that were really easy to share with a number of organizations. And I know Celine is on. I saw her reboosting that just recently and appreciate that so much, all of your efforts in trying to get the word out.
And thank you, Gretchen. I know I've been very busy. I'm actually in New Mexico right now at a federal building, and it's not a good week for them. So it's been very, very busy. So thank you. I really, really appreciate the support from you and from Marianne to leading this.
It's just our pleasure, Kate. Thank you for all the support. And for those of you who don't know, Kate also organized a partner information session that we held with community organizations that could be interested in sharing the survey. So that was terrific to have as well, and got the word out for more groups. Kate, I am wondering, while we have a few members here, there's a question about whether the Community Engagement Committee would like to meet next week, the 21st, or tentatively meet the 28th, which for me is tentative based on whether or not the city's budget committee reconvenes that night. Or if you just want to not meet in May and then resume normal activity in June. So I wasn't sure if this is a good time to call that decision or not.
Personally, I would be happy to meet next week, and I think it would be good to discuss the survey, meet with Marianne, and just check in with her in her class. Great. What I'm just a little concerned about is whether or not we'd have quorum. So I'm not sure how many committee members we have and if we'd have enough, Gretchen, and maybe you'd have more insight there.
Why don't I do a quick check to see, well, for those of you who are on the Community Engagement Committee, maybe how many of you could make a meeting on May 21st, which is a week from today?
I can't.
Kate and Celine are saying yes,
I can.
and Robert. Okay, great. Well, we can at least gather with the three of you and go over how things are going and,
I like
and
that.
maybe take initial steps on data visualization, because I know we've been wanting to get back on that.
I'd be happy.
Okay, perfect. Then I'm gonna put out the agenda and we'll plan on a meeting next Wednesday. Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate it.
I do want to add, Kate, thank you so much for all the work that you've put into the community engagement survey. You've put in a lot of time behind the scenes, working with Marianne, working with community partners, getting the education about the survey, creating some, very great social media flyers and postings, and from experience getting, similar type surveys, in the field and like really running them robustly does take a lot of time and a lot of effort that sometimes people don't necessarily see because it happens oftentimes a lot behind the scenes. And so I just want to acknowledge all the time and the effort that you put into the community engagement survey. And regardless of what the numbers the numbers turn out to be, whether or not, we had less numbers than we had this year than we had the years before, that doesn't, it's not a reflection of, anybody's, like outcomings or shortcomings. Oftentimes it's just how surveys go. And, the fact that we're able to get this survey in the field and we're still able to collect the input, we're still able to get the community feedback is better than not doing a survey at all. So, Kate, thank you so much for everything.
Well said.
Thank you. Thanks, Robert. And I wish that I was able to be there in person for some of those in-person sessions. And so if anybody was able to go, thank you so much for representing the commission. Again, it's just been, my new job is extremely busy. So I just wasn't expecting so much time to be taken up by that, but it's also great. So thank you all for understanding. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Kate. For Disability Rights Task Force, we had our second meeting a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we had our first meeting, which I reported out to you, was kind of a grounding, kind of parameterizing conversation. And then the second meeting was with our very own Eunice Kim, a long-range planner. And we talked about the housing production strategy, how the city navigates what may be described sometimes as thorny questions around planning, and including disability community in that process. And I think there was a very generative conversation. We learned a lot, and there was a lot of back and forth. And we're still figuring out what we're going to talk about next time. But it's gone well. So we're still very much in this data collection, hearing from folks, experts and folks in the community stage. That'll wrap up late summer, and we'll get into the recommendation crafting phase after that, for still hopefully for a report back to commission and council in December. So, I don't know if anyone here who was there who would like to add anything extra. All right, I will say there are two openings. Well, one official opening on the task force. So if you know anybody, please reach out to them and send them my way. I think I would be, if you're interested, I would welcome that. I will say I'm probably biased with any folks in the community and the task force. So if you have friends, family, or acquaintances who you think would be a great fit, all right. Commissioner Preston.
We don't have any report for the LGBTQIA+ committee. We did not meet this last month. And just kind of a quick update, we will not be meeting this month either. We will resume in June. That's all I have.
Yeah, thank you. And just thank you to the commission for your flexibility with staff capacity and everything around the city. And thank you, Gretchen, for moving mountains and we're happy we can make things work when we can. So
yeah, thank you all for your grace.
Any staff updates?
Yes, I brought one or two. So this as you all know, the city hall is gonna be vacated at the end of May. And we're gonna be doing a seismic retrofit of the building, an 18 to 24 month project. So our meeting locations in June are to be determined. Our May 21st meeting that we just spoke of, I suspect I can find a room in City Hall, so expect City Hall for that. But then after that, stay tuned and I'll be letting you know. We're gonna be exploring ideas. I'll physically be over at, you'll be able to find me at what's called the Parkway Building, which is on Church Street. And that is a building owned by Safe Corporation and also just directly south of the Salem Housing Authority. So that's where I'm physically gonna be. So FYI. And then my other staff update is I just wanted to let you all know that Willamette University reached out to see if we wanted help from interns, and I said yes, and I welcomed 2 students who will be doing interns with us in the fall, like August to December. One of them is pretty interested in our complaint process and being able to help welcome in people, particularly Indigenous communities, and they're also pretty interested in healthcare. So I thought I'd also connect them in on the Health and Safety Committee of the Homeless Alliance as a side thing. And then the other person is focused specifically on our Disability Rights Task Force. And so they'll be able to come in and help us move from the input we're getting towards recommendations, I think. So I just wanted to make you aware of that too. Chloe and Caitlin, and they'll start in late August.
This is very exciting. We never had interns before, so this is wonderful. And then hopefully we can take some stuff off.
Yeah.
All right, Hope is not here.
No, Hope is not here and we do not have a calendar
And
this
you don't have a
time.
calendar, okay.
Joaquin,
Yes,
if
sir.
I may, would it be of interest to the commission if I could finagle use of the Salem Police Department's community room for our meetings?
Great question.
I like the space. I would vote yes on the space. I think it's a space, the room's plenty big enough.
So we have 2 leads,
Okay.
so thank you for your very generous offer. Kira has also offered the Senate hearing room at the county as potential for exploration, so
Okay.
we'll explore both and see what.
I will check with Angie Hedrick, who is the charge of that room, to just see if it's even available.
Okay,
And if it is, I'll communicate with Gretchen, and then Gretchen can keep me posted and I can have the room set up for a meeting if we're so inclined to have it at the police department.
Thank you.
and it's in the headquarters of Police Department.
Yes. So it's a community room that's just off of the vestibule on the west side of the building.
Yeah.
Large open room. We have a lot of small tables with wheels, but I could configure them however. Multiple monitors and screens.
Giant monitors, podiums.
And we
all the
have the ability
microphones.
to do Teams or Zoom, or we can connect with outside groups. However, there's cameras inside and microphones. So.
I appreciate the offer. I think I'm biased towards Kira's offer, so let's explore that first, only because I don't want people not to come because it's at the police department.
Understood.
And so I want to be as accessible to the community as possible, but thank you for the offer.
I'll still see if it's available just in
Please,
case
that would be
we
great.
run out of options.
Thank you.
That'd be
Yeah,
wonderful.
you bet.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Any member remarks or announcements? This is maybe one of the fastest meetings of the commission I've ever chaired.
This is Robert.
Yeah.
I would like to circle back to the Community Engagement Committee meeting that we are discussing about putting on the calendars for next week. I know that committee typically meets starting at around 7,
Mhm.
but given there'll be no other meetings ahead of that, I wanted to know what other people's thoughts that have confirmed yes to possibly moving it to 6.
I
Sure.
cannot be there prior to 6:40-ish.
Sounds like 7's probably the most accessible time then.
Yeah, that works.
Which one, 6 or 7?
I mean, either.
Maybe 7, so that Christina can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So 7's fine. 7's fine. More time to walk the dog, but
Any other remarks
That's
or
on form.
announcements? Right. Well, thank you all very much for a wonderful meeting, and I will return you a whole hour and 3 minutes as scheduled. So take care and enjoy a beautiful May evening.